All right, last but not least, we're going to move into our third interview here before we take a quick break and then rejoin you at the actual legislator panel. So I'm joined by Jason. Hello, how
Hello.
are you?
Good, about yourself?
Great. And how was your panel?
My panel was really good.
Excellent.
Yep.
Hold it just a little bit closer to you.
Closer?
There you go.
There you go, I know it's close.
So for those who are tuning in via the live stream, who unfortunately missed you in person, can you talk a little bit about what your session covered?
We were talking about 3D printing in the future of ideas and the drawbacks of 3D printing in the current time, and then where we plan to see it, of course, in the future, the material developments and product design. Education was a big point there as well.
Okay, fantastic. So, thinking about 3D printing, obviously a very exciting space and one that is really front and center in a lot of what is happening right now in the field that you're in. Can you talk a little bit about the fact that, there's always legal and regulatory issues already in the medical area? It's probably one of the most regulated and overlooked areas. What are some of the obstacles that you're seeing as the technology is really pushing the envelope? Where are there some gaps in what needs to be considered in that area?
That's a great question. And my first thing that popped into my mind is tracking by serial number from the very start of the conception of the materials all the way through the machine, keeping the data on how the machine made the part, etc., especially if it's being used internally in a person. If it's the external part,
is it on?
it is on. Now can you hear?
Closer, yes.
All right.
Awkwardly
Get it right
close.
Sorry,
Yes.
thank you.
No, you're good. You'll hear the feedback when you get it really close.
Yep.
There you go.
Sounds good. So, but external medical components are kind of more of where I'm at, so we don't have as many issues getting them through or used. Make a lot of medical models, spinal models, congenital models, cranial, facial feature components, things like that.
Even closer. There you go.
Wow, this is right up in there. All right.
There you go.
Sounds good. So that, I guess that's, I haven't really explored it that way, but I do know that tracking every single item from conception to finish, outsourced and insourced, is a big thing in the medical modeling field.
Okay. So thinking about 3D printing and the potentially, very exciting new spaces we could be in, right? Where a hospital could potentially on-site create what it needs for a patient, for a surgery, for what have you. How can policies, regulations, oversight bodies properly function if that's happening on demand and they're not necessarily having the time to go into a laboratory and see what's coming off the line and, do some of those more long-term testing? If things really happening right in the here and now, do you see any implications with how we can continue to have the policies and regulations that we're accustomed to?
My thought on that is, in the world of 3D printing, the way it's developed, there is no major testing body for that product. We can only look at the standard samples of the material itself and put it up against the machine, and then, in my line anyway, we have done rudimentary testing to see how it would hold up. And with that idea in mind, then we go forward, and again, most of my stuff is external, so if your cast breaks, obviously it's not great, but the chances are it's not going to kill you in some fashion. Sure. But versus an internal part, that area I don't know. You would have to digress to somebody that works more in that space.
Okay. So in these external components, how fast is this growing? What are you seeing as far as that actually getting into doctors' offices, hospitals, wherever?
I personally think it's growing quite quickly. The idea will be that when you go in and have an X-ray done, or CT in reality, that area of interest component that they've looked at will be 3D printed and be waiting for you at your next consultation. And then they can, off of that, make jigs and fixtures to do the surgery from an external standpoint or an internal standpoint, depending on how they want to frame it. The CT scanning itself will have to be altered so you're in the position of the actual surgery. So if you're in a prone position, you get the CT taken the same way, so your body weight and muscles are all in the same direction, kind of thing. So kind of lost the point there, but
that's okay. So we'll wrap up with the same question we've been asking everybody since we're going directly into the legislator panel next. thinking about all the things that you've been working on, is there anything that is on your policy wish list as far as how we can get more of this technology into the right spaces to really improve people's lives?
I was standing in the back listening to the last speaker, but getting a code to get something billed for, instead of paying out of pocket or a physician paying with their own money to have this made, there is no pathway yet to have a 3D printed model, per patient waiting for you on a table without charging them an exorbitant amount of money for that product. So I would like to see a way that there could be a code or a line item to make that product be ready and paid for by insurance, perhaps, if it's needed, or something along that line would be really great.
Okay, great. Sounds like insurance is definitely a question we'll be bringing up to the legislators. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here and for being part of your panel at the last session, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.